All right. Welcome to AOE Live Episode 5, everybody. We made it to our 5th milestone. This is pretty awesome. We are recording a show live tonight, Tuesday, April 28th. We'll be joined tonight by a great guest, art teacher and blogger, Ted Endinger of Art with Mr. E fame. He's actually joining us today on his birthday, so way to go, Ted. That is very, very cool. And we will talk to Mr. E about his blog, his elementary classes, and all things art teaching. I got to say, tonight's going to be a little bit weird. It's just me flying solo. Tim is feeling just a little bit under the weather with kind of a laid out with a major cold, and we hope that he gets well soon. So like I've told you before, my name is Andrew McCormick, and I do teach in Cedar Falls, Iowa, for those of you that are new and joining us. I wanted to just say that tonight we've got some big news. The AOE Summer 2015 online conference is right around the corner. The schedule has been released. And in case you can't get enough of myself or Tim, who's not here, we will both be presenting. I'd like to talk just a little bit about what I'm going to be presenting. It's called Design Like a Boss. I believe this is my 4th time, but I've honestly kind of lost track. It's about graphic design, which I know for a lot of people can be an intimidating subject matter. I feel like jewelry and graphic design kind of have a steep learning curve. And if you didn't cut your teeth on that early on in art ed, it can be a little intimidating. And I'm going to show you some things that even without a graphic design background, you can use with your kids and really show off some chops in the graphic design world. I can speak for Tim. He's going to be talking about classroom culture and positivity and how that can affect a classroom management strategy. This is his 2nd talk that he's given at the conferences. He and I were talking, and he said he thought his last one went really, really well, the printmaking techniques one. And then he watched the next guy up, which was Mr. E, and he told me he thought that blew his completely out of the water. It was a great talk on teacher-led PD that Ted gave us. Great opportunity for us to introduce Ted tonight. He's an elementary art teacher from Nashville, Tennessee, who has been teaching since 1997. Ted was named the 2012 Tennessee Elementary Art Teacher of the Year. He's passionate about relationship building, organization, and professional development. So hello, Ted, Mr. Birthday Boy. How you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing good. It's good to be here with you guys.
Well, thank you. It's awesome that you're able to join us on this special day, your birthday. So hopefully we'll have a lot of fun. We want to just extend a warm welcome to those of you joining us at AOE Live for the first time. We have a lot to discuss with Ted, and we also want to hear your questions as well. So join in and participate. You know, we're using that new Crowdcast platform that will help us upvote questions that we want to hear from. And new tonight, I'm also experimenting with doing some polls. I've asked a couple questions. You can kind of see how other people are feeling about some suggestions and things that Ted is a great speaker on, okay? So make sure you check that out. It's a little tab right next to the Q&A. There's a tab that says polls. As always, you know, once we're done tonight, this talk will be available on the AOE Live page, and it will go up in just a couple days on the iTunes podcast app and also on Stitcher. So listen to us on your drive to school, while you're at school, cleaning, grading, anything you're doing, anytime that you've got the time to. Tonight, we're going to talk to Ted about 3 big keys to teaching. Number 1, how we as teachers define and play with our strengths. Number 2, how to be aware of our weaknesses and how we can work to improve them. And then number 3, how we build strong relationships. So Ted, I've been talking for a long time here because I'm kind of filling in Tim's role and my role. So let's jump right into it. What do you think are some of your strengths, and how do you utilize those strengths to make you a better teacher?
Well, I will say that a lot of my strengths come from, I was very blessed to be in a great art education program. And I feel that knowledge really helped me get to be the teacher that I am today. But, you know, there are some things that are just natural that we're kind of born with. I've never had trouble with pacing, which I know a lot of teachers struggle with. Trouble around things. I don't know, maybe I'm simple-minded and that just, it naturally comes out. I can break things down. But I feel like that's one of my strengths too, especially working with elementary for my whole career, really, for the past 18 years.
Sorry, Ted. I think we might be having a couple technical difficulties.
And it's just natural to look at information of reaching where the kids are. Can you?
All right, Ted, let me ask you another question here. Hopefully we'll get these technical difficulties out of the works here. The kinks will be done here soon. So question number 2, I want to ask you about your strengths. How do you go about defining your strengths? How do we know what we're best at? Especially, I think about if you're a brand new teacher, how would you go about and saying like, this is my first month, here's what my strengths are, and here's how I want to play to them. Any suggestions on first-year teachers on defining their strengths?
Really finding your strengths is just doing the job. You go out there and you teach. And those things that feel natural to you and the kids find a lot of success, those are your strengths. Those areas where you're falling on your face, it doesn't feel natural. You don't know how to get around some of the obstacles that come up in teaching certain concepts. Those are your deficits. That's what you need to work on. You need to find opportunities to grow in those areas. But I think that you know your strength and you know your weaknesses as you work. Mm-hmm. Very self-aware, reassessing. I believe in reassessing as I teach, even during the course of a lesson or after I finish a lesson. Okay, what went well and what do I need to change?
That's very good. Now, I know that I've had these moments where I'm starting a new lesson, and this especially happened when I was a new teacher. And even now, I try to do a lot of new lessons. I feel I've got about a 3-year lifespan. I've done projects that I thought were going to be a home run, and I get what I call flop sweat, where you know that it is not working. And all of a sudden, you can feel all 22, 23 sets of eyes on you, and it's just not going well. Have you ever had a moment like that where it's like, okay, this is clearly not a strength for me, and you just know, like, not going to work, not in my wheelhouse?
I always feel bad for my Monday classes because I teach the same lesson 5 days in a row. So my Monday classes are my guinea pigs, unfortunately. And the prayer is that it will go well. Right. But, I always will learn from my Mondays and make the next day better.
One of the things I know that is really interesting to that notion of success and weakness is what you said, that repetition, that pattern. I'm always very honest with my groups, and I tell them, and I use the same terminology you use. I say, you're my guinea pig class. You're the first one that is seeing this. And I tell my classes who are the 5th and final class, boy, I'm really good at this now, like, because I figured it out. But the drawback is I've also have 4 other classes to compare you with, and I can tell you you're not doing as well as this group, or here's your strengths and weaknesses. Are you honest with your kids and kind of tell them that they're the last group and you can compare them against each other? And then, like you said, you already do the guinea pig thing.
Yeah, I definitely will let the kids know. I'm like, yesterday's group struggled with it well. Or, yesterday's group had this concept a little better than you do. What do we need to work on? What do you not understand? Mm-hmm. And I try to be very honest with the kids. And, I'm honest with myself too. If I feel like Monday's class was a bust, then I may reteach that lesson the next Monday so that the kids will get the concept. And I'll tell them straight up, I'm sorry, that was not my best work. Mm-hmm. That was not the best lesson. And I want you guys to have a good experience. So I'm going to teach this again. And we're going to try it a little different than last time. Mm-hmm. So now, I've scrapped projects.
How do you think your students respond to that? Because I know as a new teacher, there might be some of us that feel, I don't want to admit that something didn't go right. I have to have this facade of inflappability. I'm just always amazing. Do the kids respond pretty well to seeing your mistakes, your flubs, your screw-ups?
I think that it almost makes you as a teacher more endearing, that the kids can see that you're human, that you make mistakes, that, when I say you don't have to be perfect, it's because I'm not perfect. I make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make mistakes. I'm actually in my nature to be that way. So it really helps to be honest with kids and say, I mess up too. And not everything I do is perfect. And that goes with lessons. That goes with how you handle classroom management. Because there are times in that regard too, where you might make a misstep and you just tell the kids, hey, I'm sorry. That was not the best thing I've ever done. Please forgive me and let's try again.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that kids respond to honesty. They want that.
That is so true. I think, and kids know when kids know if you're struggling and you're not owning up to it, that almost makes it kind of more uncomfortable. There's almost a kind of blood in the water, like, oh boy, we got him against the ropes now. He doesn't know what the heck he's doing. Yeah. Whereas they think if you can admit to it and be the first one to be honest and say, boy, this ain't working so well, that resonates with the kids. Now, I wanted to get to your schedule because I know in the introduction I said that you teach elementary school. I think it's always interesting to hear what everyone's kind of schedule looks like. So do you do K and then 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then 5 and then repeat that every single day, or kind of what does your normal day or your week look like?
Well, it changes year to year depending on what the need of the school is. This is our first year we've done a rotation schedule. We no longer do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We do day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. And if we don't have school on Monday, then Tuesday becomes day 1. Mm-hmm. Never miss those students, because last year what we were finding is that our Friday kids I only saw twice 9 weeks because of field trips, holidays, whatever. They weren't there. I had 2 days to do a weaving project with my 4th grade. That's not easy. So we really asked them, can we do a rotational schedule? And we will see, it goes 3rd, 4th, 2nd, K1.
Okay.
Is our schedule in the day. And then we have an hour planning each day too. Mm-hmm. So that's every day. Every day is the same. Mm-hmm. It's just a group of kids.
Right. So I wanted to ask you a question. We're kind of talking about weaknesses, and I think one of the things that everyone could say is a weakness, or if we don't admit to it being a weakness, it's always something we want to strive to get better at, is classroom management. I know that you're really well known for your organization at the elementary level and how we structure things and how what we do and how we set things up can affect students' learning. Do you have some suggestions, some tips for classroom management with a really large class size, which I know can be tricky, and then also classes where you have a lot of students who have IEPs, learning disabilities, or behavior disorders? What are some things that you might do to address some of those tougher classes in terms of classroom management?
Yeah, I believe in organization. My first year of teaching was in a portable that had no cabinetry, no sink, no nothing. Mm-hmm. I had to be organized. Now, thank goodness it's a natural inclination. I'm naturally an organized person, but I had to be organized or I would have gotten lost. And it carried over. Like when I switched schools and moved into a big classroom, I didn't ever use all the cupboards and drawers. I never used all of my space in my supply closet because I learned how to work in a smaller space and utilize that. So the materials I really believe in organization because it helps you as a teacher get to what you need quicker. And the kids need that. Like they need you to be organized so that you can get the information to them, get the supplies to them. That's going to help you with how your behavior is in your class and how the flow of your class is. So, there are times I'll get to school if I know that there's a project that's a little more entailed, I'll get to school early and I'll set myself up. It used to be that our planning time was first hour in the morning. So I could set myself up during that hour for the rest of the day. We don't have that luxury anymore. Our planning is moved into the day. And I have to make sure that I get there early enough to set myself up. And some teachers are like, oh, you know, I just can't do that. It's pretty feel ready, best interest to go. And then the time myself, scout brush come in, I can get the stuff to them, because that be happen when the week I only have them for 1 hour. I want to fill that art and be organized. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. I know we're having a couple little audio issues. I think I might kind of summarize what you're hearing or what you were saying, because I know I'm kind of hearing it. I'm not sure if everyone else is saying it. I think the big thing is the organization, organizing your room well so that you can maximize your time and how you're dealing with kids, and knowing if you're going to have a project that's a little more elaborate, that you put in that little extra time to make sure that it runs smoothly. Listen, I know that that's a weakness of mine. I mean, I always tell people my classroom is organized chaos. And that's definitely something I could get better at. So let's talk about weaknesses. As I've kind of said, mine is probably classroom management, and also the follow through of little details as far as signing off everything for the office. Sometimes those slip through the cracks on me. But how do you, Ted, feel like you discovered your own weaknesses? And I think you kind of touched on that a little bit. But then what are some of yours? What are you working to get better at?
One of my greatest weaknesses is I can get overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. That I allow myself. And once again, that kind of goes back to the perfectionist. I want everything to be just so. I want everything and I come over top of you on top of you. So that's with I really like all the extra paper, just allowing my work to set grade self, to not have everything, all my ducks I got, like whenever I could and get it all done. Something had to give. I had to let that stress go, because the stress then impacts your teaching. Did you hear that?
I did. I caught it. There were a couple parts that kind of caught out, but I do love the last thing you said, because I could not agree with you more. And I feel like, in May, end of the year, we all really struggle with that, the stress and how that affects our teaching. I mean, we think about how we teach and act the first month of school versus, the last month of school. We're all just like, oh, boy. And I think that a lot of that, it does have to do with stress. It has to do with what we're struggling with. So, yeah, what we choose to invest our time in, I actually think has a good amount of consequence on our teaching. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you have to prioritize. Like, what is the most important thing? This has to get done. Mm-hmm. And if you can prioritize and not make so like up here amped up, like, oh, everything's important. Everything's important. Mm-hmm. For us, keep the mess, or for me, main thing, the main, because art show thing, mayor's art show, great, and get aids into the year. You want to make sure you get everything in, because it's really stressful to want this done. You need more hours.
Ted, it sounds like I've just gotten a little bit of feedback from people watching us. Everyone's hearing you great. Everyone's hearing me really well. I just think that somehow our two pages are not communicating well. So I'm going to just keep throwing questions at you and letting you go with them. And if
Okay.
sometimes I have a dumb look on my face, it might be because something didn't come across, but I know you're answering these beautifully. So we're going to keep up with it.
Okay.
So I need to give, at this moment, I think we need to give Tim a little good natured ribbing. I'm not sure if he's watching this, but I know he's kind of down for the count tonight. I honestly blame Cassie Stevens. I know she gave us these wonderful bedazzled ties. I don't know if you got one. I know that you are friends with her. It was excellent that she gave us these. I don't know if you've been seeing all these like crazy hats that she's been making and this bedazzled tie. I mean, are you a little bit jealous that you didn't get in on this?
Well, Cassie and I have been friends for a long while. Like she used to teach about 3 miles from my school, 2 or 3 miles. So I her for quite some time, and nothing but love for what she's done for you guys because you needed help. You needed a little bit of sparkle in your life.
I did.
But I was so intrigued by her workshop this weekend with the hats. They got together at the Frisk Center and they made these amazing hats, and she had this like cascading donut thing going on. And I thought, gosh, Cassie's not just a friend; she's an inspiration, and I want to be like Cassie. I do. So I made myself my own hat. Let me get it here.
It's
very, very hard. Can you see it? Oh, my donuts are falling. Cassie, this is what you inspired. I don't know if you want to claim that or not, but being a guy, it can't just look good. It's got to taste good too. My donut hat tastes better than yours, Cassie.
That's excellent. Well, one of the other things, Ted, I want to talk about, I know you're really big at building relationships, and I actually think, that teaching is kind of like this tripod, a stool, and there's these legs, and you got to be balanced. If one of the legs is really strong and long and the others are weak, they'd fall down. And I kind of feel like relationships is almost one of the most important things. And again, I think of it as a new teacher, that building your relationships, not only with everybody, is just critically important. So why do you think that building good relationships has helped you out as a teacher? I mean, is it something that you deliberately strive for? Does it come naturally to you? How has that worked in the past for you?
Of education. When you come into a school, relationships, your administration with your janitorial staff, classroom teachers, and your special area teams. I think all of that is super important. Job done, and to get it done, all of us working together to be successful. And I need my custodians, I need my secretaries to be on board with what. So I work very hard to build those that it's not just and I do what I do. We're a team in this. I think part of that is I grew up. My aunt was the custodian of my school, my elementary school, growing up, and I saw what she did and her passion for the children. She was she had that relationship with the kids, and so I have I was born or this respect for the whole of a school has been with me forever because of growing up the way that I did with my aunt being a custodian, and I saw the role that she played at the school, and she was important, and she was part of the team. So when I come into a school, I want to make sure I know the people. I want to know them by name. I want to know about their life. I want them to know about me, and I want to work with them. If I'm not doing something right for the custodian or the secretary or my administration, I need to know that because I want us to work harmoniously together. And I think part of it is I don't see difference in anybody. When I came to the school that I'm presently at, people were afraid of the administration.
Mm-hmm.
Like they thought, oh, she's scary. I have never viewed anybody as scary. You know, I look at them as my partner in things, and I never feared my administration because I thought that's ridiculous. She's there to help me. If she has something to say to me, I need to listen because she's been around longer. And I just always believed in developing these relationships. And I feel that my success is because the special area team at my school is amazing. And there's only 2 of us that have been there the whole time I've been there. But each time we add somebody new or different to the team, it's still wonderful. Like we still work together. They know that we're there for one another and that we're going to back each other. It just makes your job more enjoyable when you enjoy being around.
Yeah. I think that teaching is one of the most rewarding professions. I also think it's one of the most challenging. And if you don't have good relationships with the people you work with, that's going to make that job so much more difficult and not enjoyable. So that is just critically important. You brought up another really good point that I have personal experience with, which is not believing the hype that other people say about other people. You know, you said that the people had told you that the administration was scary and intimidating and gruff. Well, that's been their experience, or that's been their baggage and their deal with them. You as a teacher need to form your own opinions about people. And I found myself at one point in my teaching career kind of believing the hype that other people were telling me about other colleagues. And then I realized how false that is, you know. And when I changed and gave everyone the opportunity to prove themselves on their own and not the speculation hearsay of other people, it really helped my relationships with people. And I just think that's a common decency that we extend to our kids. We want our kids to extend to kids and to adults. And sometimes as teachers, we can kind of have a little pity party and kind of gripe a little bit. So that has been excellent for me building relationships. I want to change focus. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Ted.
You know, going back to what we said earlier about with the children and how you need to be real with them and authentic. You say it's a bad art day today. Mm-hmm. We need to be authentic with our coworkers as well, because when we are who we are, when we're real, that's when the relationships can grow. If you're always putting on pretense, like, oh, everything's wonderful, I can't relate to that. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to be authentic. The authentic relationships are going to be what carry you through a very successful teaching career. Mm-hmm. If it's built on falsehood, that's not good. You know, people are going to see through. They're not going to believe you. They're not going to trust you. But if you are authentic, if you are real, if you are who you are in front of the kids, in front of the teachers, if you're always the same person, then that builds that relationship, because they're like, oh, I can trust you. I know who you are. You know, even if you've got your quirks, they know who you are.
Mm-hmm. One of the relationships I know that you've flourished with and really promoted is that relationship with student teachers and field experience students. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit over the past years that you've been teaching, how many student teachers you've had and what that relationship has been like? And if you have any tips or tricks for all of us out here on how to make sure that those relationships that we build with student teachers are a really positive one?
Yeah. I started, it was a little bit awkward. It was my 3rd year of teaching, and the principal really, she loved me, believed in me. And she's like, I have a student teacher for you. My 3rd year of teaching. And I was very hesitant. I'm like, I don't feel adequate. You know, I don't have the experience. I don't have the background to work with a student teacher. And she's like, nonsense. Yes, you do. So she kind of insisted that I took a student teacher in my 3rd year of teaching. And it was a struggle. Not so much for me, because, but there are some people that shouldn't be teaching. And the person that I was working with, and it's really one of the only student teachers I've ever had that I've just been like, you shouldn't teach.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her that, and I wanted to give her kind of a low score, and her university would not let me.
Mm.
She had been, it was a transition. She was a non-traditional student. She had been a graphic designer, and she just thought that teaching would be a good schedule. That's the only reason she wanted to be a teacher, because it was a good schedule.
That's
not a good
hard reality there. I don't know about that one.
But she didn't have even the natural inclination to teach. She was skilled as a graduate. She was no educator.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of my only really rough experiences with student teachers. I just had my 12th student teacher in 18 years this past fall. And she's now teaching full time. She got a job in January, and she's in my district, which is awesome. But I've got, I think, 7 of my former student teachers are in Middle Tennessee teaching right now.
Oh, that's excellent.
So 2 are in other counties, and 5 are in Davidson County, where I teach in Metro, Nashville. So
you've got your own little network of mini Mr. E's all around, spreading the goodness.
Well, I think that's, it's good, because when I get old and can't do things, I can ask them to help me.
Remember, I started your career, Sonny.
I helped you get that job. Come move this clay for me. My back hurts.
That's funny.
Ted,
go ahead.
What?
I was going to say, one of the other things that you're really passionate about, along with student teaching, is professional development, as evidenced by that really great AOE Winter Conference that we talked about a little bit earlier. Why do you think that professional development is so important, and how are we doing it well and across the country, and how could we be doing it better?
I think so much of what we're talking tonight is tied together. Relationships and professional development, to me, are hand in hand. I work in a district where there are over 90 elementary art teachers. And we have the opportunity to get together several times a year for professional development. And really, professional development is awesome, but it's building those relationships within professional development, allowing each other to know that you're there for one another, or, oh, I've struggled with that, or I have trouble with this, or this is where I found success, try this, and being able to share with one another during the PD. Because my friend Janet and I, we've led a lot of PDs, and we always make sure that we leave time to just talk, because getting together and talking shop is cathartic. It really helps people be able to process through what they're experiencing in their schools, because they might have great relationships within the school, but most of them only teach. And to have camaraderie during professional development is very beneficial. Mm-hmm. When I first started teaching 18 years ago, they hired 80 art teachers the year I graduated college for Metro, because they had to have one in every elementary school in the city. And at the end of that first year, 30 left teaching, or at least left Metro Nashville. I felt it was because people were disconnected. They didn't have that camaraderie. They didn't have people that they could connect with. They didn't have ongoing professional development to help them get over the humps that happen as a new teacher. Mm-hmm. Even as an old teacher, professional development allows for people to work ideas out, but also build those relationships that they need to help work those ideas out. Mm-hmm. And for me personally, I never want to become stale. Mm-hmm. I want new ideas. I want to reinvent as a teacher, to be contemporary, to be what I best need to be for my students 18 years ago, and say, that's good enough. Mm-hmm. Now, some of that stuff will carry over, but I want to be what my students need me to be. Mm-hmm. And like this past year, I did social studies concentration within my curriculum. I tried to theme most of my lessons dealing with things around the world. Next year, I'm going to do a science and put science into every lesson, whether it be just we're doing self-portraits, people are humans, can only humans be self-portraits? Could there be animal portraits? That kind of thing, just so I can put science into everything that I'm teaching. But, professional development allows you opportunities to get these ideas, and then you can run with them. Not that you're going to do exactly what you learned in a professional development, but that you can take those ideas and it'll spark something. It'll help you renew yourself, refresh yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it sounds like what you're talking about is a professional development structure where there is a lot of autonomy, where you as a teacher are allowed to break out and individualize what you're doing. I know some of us have had professional developments that have been 3 hours and scripted, and there's a structure. And I find that so many times talking to art teachers, that is when we find, it's not relevant to us, and it's kind of a hard time to see the connections. But what you're talking about is getting with fellow teachers of like mindsets and really collaborating and hashing out some good ideas and sharing best practices. And that's what professional development's supposed to be. I don't know, this is kind of an aside, and maybe this is my own baggage. I feel like to have a really good professional development and really connect and collaborate with people, we have to be honest with ourselves about what we're doing well. And this kind of goes back to our weaknesses and strengths and what we're not doing well. And I wish that conversation happened more where I lived and worked, just in general. I don't feel I hear the conversation amongst teachers enough about what they're struggling with. I'm eating it on this project. I'm doing horrible at this. I'm struggling with this. I feel like I do that enough, but I feel that some people see that as admitting to weakness or admitting to failure, and that's the last thing we want to do. I don't know if you've ever had experiences with people unwilling to come to terms with their weaknesses and fess up to things they're struggling with. And if you have had to deal with that, how do you overcome people like that?
Well, I've had experience with student teachers
mm-hmm.
and with peers that are teaching in the district, where it seems that they are unwilling to admit they have a need, because they only want to show the good side. And I can understand that, but at the same time, weakness is not bad. We all have weakness. We all have areas that we struggle with. We all have areas that we need to improve. That being honest again, with who we are. I have a real problem, especially with student teachers that are unwilling to listen to advice, experience, or ideas. I'm never going to come at a person and lord over them like, you need to listen to me, I'm the all-powerful. It's not like that. It's, hey, I've been down this road. This works for me. It might work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's brainstorm some ideas. And I've had people come back and say, no, I want to do it this way. And I'm like, okay, you can do it that way, but you're going to bite it.
Right.
So, sometimes people need to learn through their mistakes. And I hate to see people struggle, but sometimes they're only going to learn through the struggle. And then they might come back to you and say, hey, you got some ideas for me? And that's what it needs to be, though, because you can't force your ideas on anybody. I can't force you to teach my way. I can't force my ideas on you. If you're willing to listen and learn and grow, awesome. And it doesn't have to be my way. Just listen to some advice I might have for you.
Right, and listen to some advice and then kind of create your own way with it. And it's kind of a meshing of two different styles and different ideas. But yeah, you almost have to let people kind of fail sometimes before they realize that they've got to try something different. So,
yeah.
Ted, you're really well known for your blog. You're internet famous. I wanted to just, before we let you go, kind of talk to you about how you got that started and what were some things that you were hoping to accomplish with your blog.
I started it in grad school. I went to grad school, and the professor that we had, it was online, and the technology part of it was the first class we had to take so that we could get through the whole program online. And one evening, he and I were having a chat session, and he's like, "You need to start a blog." And I said, "What's a blog?" This was like 2008.
Mhm.
I'm not like I know technology better now than I did, but then I was just what I really did not know what a blog was. So he explained it to me, and I said, "Why?" And he started talking about relationships and connection and sharing our ideas. Well, that naturally kind of appealed to me. Um, so I was like, okay, I'll give this a try. And that was, I think it was 2008 was when I started Art with Mr. E. And I really was like, okay, my professor's going to look at this. Maybe parents will look at it. I had no idea who was going to look at my blog. I hadn't really found my voice as a blogger at that point, like, because I didn't even know what a blog was. So as I started sharing my experiences in the art room, and then all of a sudden people started taking notice and commenting and asking questions. I'm like, oh my gosh. And the realization that there are art teachers out there that are not connected.
Mm.
They're not in a district that has 90 elementary art teachers. They're the only elementary art teacher. I was like, oh gosh, I never thought about that. And I became like a voice for them to listen to, a sounding board that they could share their situations with. I started getting all kinds of emails from people early on, like 2009, 2010. People started contacting me and sharing just crazy stuff about their teaching situations and struggles that they were having. And I felt like I was like Dr. Phil of the art ed world at first.
Now, wait a second. This is the second time that Dr. Phil has come up in 5 episodes. I feel like we owe this guy royalties or something now, but but go on.
So, for me, it was that relationship aspect of blogging. Like if blogging didn't have a relationship component to it, I wouldn't do it because I feel I'm put on this earth to invest in other people. Like that's what I do. That's who I am. I want to connect with others. And if blogging ever got to a point where I was not connecting with other people, if people were not reaching out to me or I could not reach out to other people, I would stop doing it.
That's a great point.
Pinterest came along then. And when Pinterest came along, it blew up my blog. Like it just all of a sudden, like my numbers started growing by leaps and bounds, mainly because of one project that they pinned. But then people started looking at my other stuff, and then they started talking to me and asking questions. And I've actually even talked to readers on the phone.
Oh, cool.
Where I've said, it's really hard to type. Can we just talk sometime? Here's my number. And I've had people call me from Virginia, from Florida, from California before, and just talk because they didn't have anybody else to talk to. They didn't have a district coordinator. They didn't have somebody like a mentor in their district that they could reach out to. And I was a safe place for them to come to and share with. When I went to my first national convention, which was a court, it kind of blew my mind because you see numbers on your blog, people that visit, how many people have visited, how many people follow you. But until you start meeting people face to face, you don't really realize the impact that you're having. I stood after registering at the escalator trying to find my way around the convention center to find where my talk was and all that kind of stuff. I stood for an hour and a half at the escalators and just talking to people. Because as soon as I'd finished one conversation, somebody else was waiting over on the wings to talk to me. And I had a woman come up to me in tears, crying. And she said, I heard you were here. She's like, I was about ready to quit. I was going to just quit education. And I found your blog, and I felt like you were speaking to me. And I started doing some of the things that you do in your classroom. And my principal got really excited. And I'm still teaching. And it's because of you. But I'm like crying at that point because like that was break my heart. hear such a thing. And she was kind of like my helper. Like my talks that I was giving, she would be there and she'd help reset up my room for me and everything like that, because she wanted to give back because she felt like I had given to her. And I'm just like, there is a lot of power in blogs, and I feel like there's a responsibility I have with my blog, to be real, genuine, honest, and caring. And I hope that's what comes across when I blog. I don't want it to be just about, here's a project I did, but here's some struggles I had, here's successes I had, this is what I did for success. I want that to come across so people don't feel alone.
That's such a cool story. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Now, the last thing I want to ask you before we get out of here and get you on the lightning round questions, which are always a lot of fun. Your district does something called Artober Nashville. Can you tell us a little bit about what this is? I think our audience would kind of like hearing about that.
It started a few years ago, several years ago now. But in the month of October, there is a art push across the whole city of Nashville. The symphony, the ballet, all the art component in the city participates. And there are special concerts, there are special performances. We try to have special displays of art. There's discount days at certain museums. There's just all these activities that are focused on art. And in Artober, it's just that push to say, here we are, and we're doing great things in the city. It coincided, I think our first Artober coincided with Chihuly being in Nashville. In two locations. We had them at Botanical Gardens and we had them at the Frist Center for the Visual Arts. So we did these Chihuly lessons, which that's another cool thing, professional development wise. My friends and I will get together and we'll ideas for a certain artist that fit within our curriculum. And then we say, hey, if you want to do them, here they are. Or if you come up with some other cool ideas, you can do those too. But we try to focus on a certain artist. And in that way, there's a unification across the whole city in the arts. And it's fun. It's just a lot of fun to see the arts get that kind of spotlight for a month.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's some great advocacy to get out in the public. I mean, it's great when artwork leaves the classroom and is alive out in the community and in the public. It's great.
Yeah. This past year, we did Kandinsky. And if you follow my blog, you saw my Kandinsky fence, which I had my former pastor, at his condominium, they were getting rid of their privacy fences. And he's like, I thought of you. Do you want some? And I was like, I'll figure out something. So then when it came to be Kandinsky, I had the idea of doing the concentric circles on the Kandinsky fence and doing a community-based project where I got parents involved and teachers involved and administration involved, painting the concentric circles all over this fence. And then it sets out in front of our school now. It's still out there. It got blew down by a storm, but then one of our teachers' husbands put it back together for me because I'm no construction worker.
Well, we can't be amazing at everything, Ted.
I can paint a pretty, but that's about all I got going on. I screws and screwdrivers. I'm not good with that. So that Kandinsky, that was kind of a neat push because there it sits there in front of our school, and I've had a lot of parents say, "Oh, what is that? Tell me about that." So it's a conversation starter too because we had this art push. And it's still out there, and here we are in April, almost May, and it's still there, and it's still causing conversations.
That's cool. Well, Ted, some really great advice tonight. I know we've kept you a little bit longer, so we want to go ahead and get you some lightning round questions really quick, and then we'll kind of wrap this up for everybody that's still watching. Okay, so first question, and we've kind of asked this of everyone. I think this is a tried and true question for us. Favorite artist to teach, and then favorite artist personally.
Favorite artist to teach, Matisse, very versatile. Kandinsky is kind of a new favorite, but I really love Matisse. I think there's a lot of different avenues you can pursue with student artwork. Matisse is also my favorite personal artist.
Okay, great. So. Your breakfast dinner, or your birthday dinner tonight, celebration, big celebration. What'd you have? How'd you treat yourself?
Taco Bell.
All right.
We didn't want to, we went to Chuck E. Cheese. I just wanted to spend time with my family, like just have fun with my family. And my kids like Taco Bell, and it's right across from Chuck E. Cheese, and we don't like their pizza. So
wait one second.
Taco Bell.
Are you telling me that you went to Chuck E. Cheese to play the games and then you went to Taco Bell to eat?
Uh-huh.
You are my hero, Ted. That's amazing. That's very cool. Okay, last one. Are you a better singer or a better dancer?
I'm a better singer. I've actually done background vocals for a Christian country singer and got to record down on Music Row. So, and I sing for our church and everything. Yeah.
Wait, okay. We are a good 50 minutes into this, Mr. E. And why is this just coming out now that you have an amazing melodic voice? I think we're going to have you on again and get some sweet, sweet vocals on right off the top, okay?
Well, not during allergy season, please.
Okay, I can empathize with you there. All right, well, Ted, I'm going to let you get out of here and enjoy the last waning hours of your birthday night, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Ted.
Bye, everybody. It's great to be here.
All right, well, let us kind of wrap this up. That was excellent for Ted being with us tonight. It seems like I had a couple technical difficulties hearing him, so I hope that came across okay, and I'm hoping in the podcast it'll be fine. I want to talk about some takeaways. I think one of the biggest ones that we kept bringing up is to know thyself, know your strengths, know your weaknesses. Kids will know them if you don't, so you can't really fake it. However, and here's my second point, is you've got to be willing to stretch out of those weaknesses. I actually think that many great strengths and a lot of learning that we can have as a teacher will happen when we stretch ourselves out of those weaknesses. And third, it's okay for students to see us struggle and to see us stretch. Like Ted said, it makes us appear more human, and it shows students that learning isn't just something that happens when you're kindergarten to 12, but something that grown-ups do for their entire lives. And finally, I think the biggest takeaway is build those relationships. Build them with your kids. It makes your life easier. Build them with your colleagues, your staff. Like I said in the podcast, teaching is hard enough. You got to enjoy the people that you work with, and you got to rely on them, or you're not going to have a good go of teaching. All right, so a big thank you to Ted for gracing us with his wit and wisdom. Be sure to check out his blog if you don't know about it, but I'm sure you do if you checked out this podcast, artwithmre.com. You can check out my Twitter feed or Tim's Twitter feed for some other discussions tonight. Also, hashtag AOE Live to check out the discussion. I'm going to stick around on the chat roll for a little bit and answer any questions, and I'll try to get with Ted and encourage him to come on back. And just a reminder, once we're done, we will be uploading the AOE Live podcast to the iTunes podcast app and also on Stitcher, so you can check that out later. So I'm Andrew McCormick, and on behalf of my good friend Tim Bogatz, who is home recovering, thank you for joining us for AOE Live tonight. Goodbye. Get better, Tim.